All right, welcome back to Strategy Immersion Training. We're now in week 1 of your training, and today we are going to cover the one key secret, if you will, to your client winning. And I'm always excited to talk about this because this this is really like the end all be all for almost everything in your client's life. So I don't care who you're working with, this is going to make a difference for them. So first things first, these live streams that I'm doing are a part of Master Coach University's Strategy Immersion Training. And so each week we'll be doing this to really offer some additional insights and some additional understanding, some keys to success as, in this case, a strategy coach. And if you saw our last live stream, you might already have an idea of what I mean by strategy coaching, what it is, and what it's good for. If not, check that out. I might even link to it in the video once this is complete. So that said, like I said, today we're going to cover this one thing that's really the secret to your client winning. And I'm going to get into not only what is it, but also why is it really going to make a difference for the clients that you coach as well. Because, ultimately, as a strategy coach, and as we talked about in the last live stream, your job is to support your client in transforming how they actually produce results, how they feel what they feel, how they get from A to B. Strategy is just a simple way of saying, how are we going to do it? How are we going to get where we want to go? So I actually have some prepared flip chart elements, and I'm going to see if I can do this well. It's my first time on a live stream actually attempting to do this. Oh, I love it. Okay, you'll never see this one again. All right, so let's get to it. So first of all, what is this thing that we're going to talk about that makes such a difference, that really is the secret to your client's success? And I'm going to give it to you right off the bat, and then I'm going to explain to you why and some examples of how it actually shows up successfully in client scenarios, and real client scenarios I've recently gone through with my coaching clients. So first of all, the key here that we're about to cover is your client's state of mind, their state of mind. Now, there are a lot of different ways to describe this. You can call it their mood or their emotion or their thought process or their mindset. People have different dictionary definitions of what word they should use. But the bottom line is how your client thinks about stuff and what state of mind they're in. You could call it how they're feeling or how they're thinking. It's basically one in the same in so many ways. That's going to drive everything in your client's life. Your entire client's life is driven by that. Now, the reason why I say that, just logically speaking, is that ultimately your client obviously has knowledge and abilities and they have a physicality about them. All of that, however, is all their biography. That's all in the past. Okay? So unless we just, double over and say, well, my past is what defines me and my client's past is what defines them, we have to admit what's going to create the future is their actions, right? They can accrue new knowledge, different physicality, right? Now, obviously, you can't add another arm, but you can make that arm stronger, right? You can not only acquire knowledge and change to your physical self, but you can also take actions in your life externally that create a different life, a different experience, obviously, right? So I can go get a different job. I can set up a different light for my live stream. I can talk. I can make a phone call today. I can work on a different part of my business, right? Or my relationship, or my health, for that matter, right? I can take action. So whether it's your own state of your body and your knowledge base, or if it's like the actual situation in your life circumstances, All of that is created by, or it's led by, your action or lack thereof, and the quality of your action or lack thereof. Pretty basic, pretty simple, right? But what directs that action is your state of mind. What directs the quality of that action is your state of mind, or your client's state of mind in this case. It's just that simple, right? So if your client doesn't have the knowledge they need, or they don't have a great life, or they don't do anything about that, or physically speaking, they're unhealthy and they're not living right, well, that's because their state of mind. Their state of mind is the wellspring from which all of that action or lack thereof, all the quality of what they do to make their life better or themselves better or lack thereof, it stems from their state of mind. That's it. That's as simple as it gets. So let me give you some examples of what I mean by that. So this represents my client here, the wonderful stick figure. And so this client of mine it happens to be a thought leader, and they were really excited because I worked with them on how they're going to accrue a better audience, how they're going to generate more clients, more followers. And we said, you know what, the way to do that is this thing that we call a webinar here. So you're going to do a webinar, and you're going to invite people to this. You're going to, you're going to sell them on why they should attend this wonderful webinar, and you're going to create some amazing thought leader content for that webinar. You're going to deliver it, and you're going to make an invitation at the end to get people into your program or have them sign up for the next step, whatever that is, right? It's pretty basic, pretty simple. We've heard about this before. Most of us have, at least, especially as coaches and leaders. So walking away from this strategy, she was in a really good state of mind. She was excited. She was looking forward to it, and she immediately went to work, planned a webinar, set up the everything that she was going to give for the webinar, the title of the webinar, what she was going to cover, etc. We went back and forth on the strategy there, but the bottom line is she went forward with this webinar, and she completed that webinar. Now, she comes back and she says, I'm done with the webinar. I didn't get any sales out of it, but people showed up, and there's some good things happening there. I got some sessions out of it. Like there's something going on, right? And so then I gave her the next step. I said, okay, you're going to take that webinar, you're going to turn it into content, you're going to turn it into an ebook, etc. And she started splintering off this content. She was really excited, started putting together all these different elements that were going to further her business even more. And I looked at the work that she was doing. It was fantastic. I mean, not only was the content of the webinar great, but also, her design work was amazing as well. So everything is just like, wow, this leader, this influencer is going places. And then a couple weeks goes by. I think she had a week off from coaching, and I got into a session with her, and she said, I haven't been doing anything. I haven't made any progress in all the things that you were telling me and that we were working on and all that. And I said, well, why? What's going on? Tell me what's happening. Get me up to date, right? And she said, well, COVID is happening, and, there's all this horrible politics that are going on right now, and, the protests are right outside my door, and, there's all this upheaval, and you know what? I'm just starting to think, why bother? And basically, she didn't say this in so many words, but she was in a state of mind of overwhelm and fear. This is really what all this was, quote unquote, causing, right? So I said, okay, all right, so there's some circumstances, you're dealing with those, right? And she was not in a great state, but she was kind of reeling from what was happening at the time, right? And she was very intense about it. So I said, okay, you know what? What are you committing to that you're going to do even in this time? And could be nothing. It's really okay. But what are you going to do that's really going to make a difference for you? And we just worked on strategizing how she can deal with the circumstances to some extent. So a month or two goes by, and we had another session. And she comes to the session, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm just not feeling it now. I'm not feeling like there's any reason to do what I do. I mean, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. And I'm thinking, why bother? It's just like, I asked her, I said, well, wait a second. What about the one webinar a month plan that you have been talking about and that you started working on? You've already done a couple of these and they're actually going well. Like your content's really amazing. Your design work is awesome, but you need some volume here. Quantity is important. You can't just do something once and think it's all going to work out, right? So she said, I just don't think I'm going to do it. I'm not right now. Not right now. This is not like, I'm not in the right place to do this. And she basically was saying, I'm not in the right state of mind for doing what I was doing before. And so she was in a bad state. She was in this kind of conversation of why bother. And I asked her, you want to make progress on your business. I mean, that's really what this is about, right? She said, yeah, I really am committed to making progress. I want to see some things happening. Nothing's happening right now. And so I asked her, I said, wait a second, how many hours a week are you working right now in your business? Because I just wanted to get a sense, because I mean, she said nothing was happening and she was busy. It's not like nothing, she was doing nothing. And I said, how many hours a week are you just actually putting work into your thought leader and influencer business at this point, at this time? And she said, about 15 hours a week. About 15 hours a week. And so I stopped and I said, look, 15 hours a week is better than nothing, but you're never going to get anywhere on 15 hours a week. Like, you're competing with other leaders. You're supposedly going to really break through and gather a big audience that's going to be big enough to support you with your work and your thoughts, your advice and your leadership. So like just 15 hours a week, that's just barely, working with the clients that you have and, getting up in the morning and making sure your billing goes through. I mean, that's just like keeping the doors open. Like maybe not even that. Yeah, that was probably just her just doing the minimum to like survive and maintain what she's got. And probably if she continued that, she wouldn't even have maintained what she had. So I told her, I said, look, you got to put in real time. I mean, in this business, you got to put in probably 5 to 10 hours a week on sales and marketing, minimum. And then you've got your actual deliveries, your deliverables of what people expect from you as a leader, whether it's your coaching or your groups or your trainings, like your books, whatever it is that you deliver to people, right? And so that's going to be maybe 10 or 20 hours a week, depending on how many clients you're working with and what kind of promises you make there. And then you've got admin, which, is probably going to be 2 to 5 hours a week or so, depending on if you have an assistant. So, I mean, we're talking 20 to 40 hours a week. And look, I told her, your competition, they're not jokers. They're not slacking. They never slack. They see this time when, everything's in upheaval as an opportunity for them to pivot and find ways to help, find ways to serve. Like they're gnawing at the bone, finding like, what's the next thing I can do where I can put some real value to work here? They're putting in 40, 50, 60 hours a week plus. So it doesn't matter what a genius you are. It doesn't matter what your knowledge is. It doesn't matter how amazing a person you are. It doesn't matter how much you deserve to be successful in this industry. You're never going to make it. You're not even close to make it on 15 hours a week. Competing in this industry, you're dead. They're going to eat your lunch. They're going to rip you to shreds. So she got it. I mean, she realized, I got to work more than 15 hours a week. And so I also had I'm just making this a little bit of a black box because I don't want to get into the details of it, but we had some more coaching sessions and we got through like how she can alter her mindset, even with, all of these different circumstances, how she could actually get her mindset where it needs to be. And part of that was just her knowing, hey, 15 hours a week is not enough. Like that belief, like I convinced her of that. But then on top of that, she had to, set the stage for during this time, how do I need to think about my work, my contribution, my leadership, my politics, like all of that stuff. So I actually do the basic work I got to deliver on to grow my business to influence at a higher level and a deeper level. And so I worked with her on that mindset, and she adopted a very, very different mindset. And she got excited and she got motivated, and she said, okay, I'm ready. I feel like this is important, like this matters, and I'm focused on the right things now. And then guess what? Now she's in a good state. And all of a sudden, last week, I saw another webinar come through. And it was an awesome webinar. She crushed it. And she had amazing design. And she's putting out even more amazing content to the people that she cares about and new people that are going to gather from her audience. I mean, she's got some real raving fans. She just needs more. That's all. So she had to hit those numbers. So what made the difference in her, I hope you can see this, yeah. Sorry, my chair is probably blocking the light a little bit, but what made the difference in her performance was not the circumstances, and it wasn't her knowledge. She hadn't changed what she knew or physically who she was or what was going on circumstantially. She went from a bad state to a good state. That's what she did. Disempowered state of mind, emotion, mood, thoughts to powerful. And she was producing in a good state, really no producing in a bad state, went back to a good state, started producing again. Key to production. Now, on top of that, if she's in a bad state and tries to actually perform, tries to produce something, some people will do that, right? They feel lousy, but they'll still kind of drag themselves out of bed and like go through the motions, right? Probably not going to be the most effective approach, right? So she changed her state and not only performed amazingly, but also followed through on the actions that were required. That's all performance is. Performance is quantity and quality. And she had both. So, key to performance. That's really what this is about. That your state of mind, your client's state of mind, emotion, mood, mindset, thought process, call it what you will, it is the key to them performing or performing lousy or not performing at all. It is the key. Hope that makes sense. And if it doesn't, let me know. Questions about this, let me know. Okay, I'm going to do a trick again, see if I can pull off the second. You will never see this page again. Can't go back. Got to throw it away. Stay. All right. All right, so now let's talk about what coaches love to talk about, feelings. So sometimes you'll have a client. In fact, if you're a very successful coach, you are going to meet these clients. You're going to have a client who's already really successful, but they feel not so great. They're not feeling great about their life. They have some kind of internal struggle. It's like, hey, I've succeeded now. I've made it in my life. And now, I just want to feel better than I feel right now. Like they're not feeling great about something, their relationship, their life, their business, whatever it is, right? And they have the means, they're successful, etc., but feelings are an issue for them. And of course, you'll meet people who aren't doing very well in their life, and they really are, wanting to feel better as well. So, I'll give an example. This client, I've been working with her for years now, and about a year ago, she came to me, and she, this woman is a really like great relationship builder. She makes a living off of her relationships. She's in group sales, and she's very much an amazing coach, but also an amazing like seminar leader and teacher and artist in her own right as well. And it's a great client that I work with. So about a year ago, she started talking to me about, it was her marriage. My marriage, I don't have any love in my marriage. And, I feel like I've failed and like I'm losing everything in my marriage that I really wished that I had. And by the way, this is a lady who's making good six figures currently as a leader, coach, influencer, teacher, etc. Okay, done very well for herself. Just built that business within another business over the last couple years. basically. So an amazing success. And here she is, like, feeling a sense of loss because she wasn't focused on, at least in that particular coaching session, she wasn't focused on her business. She was focused on love in her life and the fact that that wasn't going well for her. So I worked with her on it, and the bottom line was she was in a relationship with somebody that was never going to change, or was very unlikely that they were going to change. They had chemical dependencies, and they obviously had no openness to transforming anything about the way the relationship is currently going, including themselves. They had no openness to transforming themselves either. And she knew it. And so, I advised her that, if she wanted a better relationship and she wanted to have a better experience of love in her life, she was probably going to have to leave. Now, she wasn't ready for that message at that point. Kind of shut that conversation down, which does happen sometimes. You give advice and people, a lot of times do not respond to advice the way that they would non-directive, just powerful questions alone. But at some point, it's really good just to have direct communication. I mean, ICF does admit direct communication is part of the package in coaching, right? So it was very, very obvious she was going to need to leave, or at least separate for a time, which likely would have just led to ultimately a complete separation. So wasn't even ready for the conversation. But later on, months later, I think it was months later, she came to me and she said, "You know what? It's time for me to leave. I've got to go. And I realize this isn't going anywhere." And she starts crying on the call with me. She's really, really what I would call sad, right? I asked her, "Why are you crying?" And she said, "Because I feel like I've failed. I feel like I'm losing the love that I had hoped I would have in my marriage. And I'm just mourning that loss." And so this was her mindset. Her focus was on loss and failure. This was kind of caused this sadness that she experienced. And so in that session, I waved a few magic wands, as coaches tend to like to do. And I think the key question I had asked her at that point was, well, what do you deserve in a relationship? And what do you think would be possible for you in relationships if you left? What do you think would be possible for you in your life that's never going to be possible if you stay in this relationship, if you don't actually make the change that you need to make? And I can't remember the exact words that she shared, but she said something like, actually experiencing true freedom, being able to authentically love someone and be loved in return, like that. You get the idea. Like, it was that kind of stuff, right? So in the same session, by the time we started talking about that, I mean, it was still tears, there's no doubt, because there was still a sense of this. But at some point during that session, she started focusing on the future. She changed her focus to this. We talked about how much she deserved to be loved and how much she deserved to feel her freedom and express herself for who she truly was and become the next kind of version of herself. And she never would do that, staying in this dead relationship where she's dead inside. And by the end of that session, she told me, "You know what, Jeff? I'm so grateful that I've got the courage within me that I can leave this relationship. I'm so grateful that I found within me the strength to make this decision, because it's not an easy decision at all." So by the end of that conversation, she is in this state of mind. She's in a totally grateful state of mind. I mean, not like perfect, right? But really fully feeling the possibility that's available to her in making a very courageous and challenging decision, like a big life decision that's going to impact like everybody that's important to her in her life, especially herself, and whatever future relationships she creates out of this change that she's going to make. So her focus changed to the future love that she can experience and lots of other really amazing things. Now she's feeling grateful and she's still leaving. Notice this is the same. Leaving to leaving. Nothing's changed there. She knew it was the right thing to do, right? I mean, what would some coaches do? Hey, I'm leaving and I'm sad. Well, hey, just don't leave. Just don't leave. Stick around. You won't be sad, right? Because you're sad because you're leaving. Because that's the relationship here that we've drawn. Now, by the way, I'm not saying you can't offer that as an option, but we already knew by this point in our coaching relationship that wasn't an option for her. The writing was clearly on the wall. Now, that said, even if the writing's on the wall, sometimes clients need to actually think about the opposite of the right thing to do and decide against it before they actually commit to the right thing or commit to the best thing. But she didn't need that. She was smart enough to know. She already knew what there was to do there. So bottom line is, all we needed to do was change the state of mind, which was basically a focus change for her at that point, from failure and loss and focusing on the past to future possibilities, freedom and love, focusing on the future and what's possible. Isn't that interesting? You can change your focus to a different time frame for the same event and it means something different. And then you'll feel something different. You go from sad to grateful. It's pretty wild. Same life, same problems, different feelings. So that's just one example of how feelings can change from changing like a focus or an aspect of somebody's state of mind. And so her actions were going to be the same, but now she's going to feel totally different about it. I just talked to her the other day. You know, she's getting into a new place to live. She's making the final separations. And, you know, there's a little bit of fear and trepidation there because of the uncertainty, right? Just totally understandable. But she feels powerful. She's got anticipation. She has a whole different sense of what's possible because she understands what this whole life change to her means. And she created a different meaning out of it, different state of mind about it, different feeling, same event. Can't even imagine what difference that makes to her life right now and who she can become, what her life is like, how it is waking up in the morning. Really not a huge performance change, right? But her life is different because her feelings are different. So your clients really only want to change one or both of two things. They either want to change their results or they want to change their feelings. And really, frankly, the reason why they want to change their results is usually because they want to change how they feel, and they think changing their results will change how they feel. And sometimes it will, there's no doubt, but a lot of times it won't. So ultimately, feelings is the entire game of life, because no matter where you are in your life, no matter what's in your future or in your past, change your feelings, your life is different. If you have like zillions of dollars, everybody loves you, you're the most beautiful human on the planet, successful beyond anybody else's imagination, God personally bows to you, and you feel depressed, your life is depressed. But you could be poor, have no friends, no real family or family that has rejected you, have failing or ill health. But if your feelings are joyful or ecstatic, your life is joyful and ecstatic. Change the feeling, you change your life instantaneously or almost instantaneously. That's the point here. So that's why these are the keys of the kingdom. That's why this is what, like the ultimate secret. Because now, by the way, the challenge with this a lot of times, other than just having an understanding, and you guys are learning this in strategy immersion training right now, how to actually change somebody's state of mind, like in a session and then beyond the session and then for the long term, so they truly transform for their entire life. And then it really is generalized into every area of their life. So you're learning these nuts and bolts for sure. And I just gave some examples on some possible nuts and bolts here as well. But the point of the matter I was about to make when I was losing my train of thought here is that the challenge I was about to say is not necessarily how you actually change your client's state of mind. That's not that hard. It's not really that complicated. There's lots of levels to it. There's 5 levels that we teach in immersion training. Some of you guys know that. But the challenging part is actually showing your client that their state of mind actually is the biggest deal for them. Because where are they focused? They're focused on the circumstances. You know, they're focused on kind of the victimhood of what we've been taught in school and in our society, that, you know, the reason why we feel a certain way is because other people are abusing us, or other people have done this and this and this, or the government is like this, or, you know, your particular social group is like this, or money is like this. Like, all the circumstances are the reason why you feel the way you feel. No, it's not. But, you know, like actually helping them to understand that, that's challenging. This kind of explains it to some extent. Like, hey, you change what this means to you, you change the feeling, right? Change the words you use to describe it, you change the feeling, right? But you got to demonstrate that with your client, because your client's not just going to jump necessarily, and I mean, depending on what kind of client you got, they're not necessarily going to just jump into this understanding that, you know, their feelings and their productivity and their actual success externally as well is really predicated on their state of mind. They won't always just buy into that initially. So you've got to be able to piece that together for them, or with their kind of cooperation, so they can connect those dots and see that this is the key to their kingdom. This is really their master key to success. All right, so let me show you a couple other kind of simple ways to think about this, if I can get this to happen again. That required a very masterful state of mind in being able to move the page off the flip chart. All right, so let's talk about this. So it's another way to think about it. Your state of mind is either an amplifier of you and your results, or a minimizer of you and your results. So think about, like, you know, generally, like, most of us have learned about bottlenecks, right? Like, if you want to squeeze a certain amount of fluid or air or something through a hose or a transmission avenue, if there's a bottleneck, like we see here, you know, if there's this kind of area where everything's narrowing, it's going to slow and lessen what you get on the other end. So even if you're starting off with plenty, something goes through a bottleneck, it's going to hurt your ultimate expression of that flow through, so to speak, right? So you want to eliminate these. So here's the challenge. Once again, your client, you know what, I don't even need this. Your client has, as I mentioned before, they've got knowledge. You know, they've got, let's say, circumstances, right? That's like their job, their money, their friends, you know, their peer group. They've got their physical body, right? So they have a body, hopefully. Right? And they've got experiences, which is basically knowledge, right? EXP. So they've got all these things, and it's all kind of right here or surrounding them circumstantially, their house, their friends, their loved ones, etc. They've got all that, and then they want to go from A to B. They want to get over here and go to the next level, however that is, like in the relationship area, or financially, or career-wise, business-wise, health-wise, whatever, right? Or all of the above, hopefully. So they need to move them and move whatever it is that's needed internally and externally to the next level, and actually cause something amazing to happen. The problem is this, that if your state is minimizing all of this, see, all of this stuff is great, but you got to squeeze all of that through your state of mind. Like, if I have a bunch of great, amazing knowledge, but I'm kind of nervous, I'm going to forget all the knowledge that I could give you, right? I could have some amazing, I don't know, body for dancing, let's say, or acrobatics, But if I'm, in a despondent or let's say unfocused state, I might drop off the trapeze or stumble and fall, right? It's not just all of this. It's got to go through this bottleneck. You've ever heard of people like choking, right? Like I'm about to do the big show, and then all of a sudden, like I have this perfect voice, I have this amazing delivery, like everything's just perfect, and then I show up and then I just fall flat. Happens all the time, right? Great example of that is like in martial arts. People get to like some belt because they've been doing all this form and all this kind of basic sparring, and then they get in a street fight and they get crushed, right? Why? Now, assuming they actually were trained properly, they got into a state of mind that was different than when they were in the dojo, or a state of mind that's different than when they're in the practice room, or just warming up. And all of a sudden that puts them in a different focus, different physiology, different way of thinking about things, etc., different emotion, if you will, right? Different thinking, like, oh my God, I can't handle this. What's going to happen? I got to protect myself. I'm scared. Whatever, right? You get the idea. And it minimizes all of a sudden what was huge and all these amazing resources they had. They got to funnel that through this tiny little space. And of course, if it's a really challenging scenario, they can't do that. But regardless of what the ultimate outcome is, what we do know is this, is that they're this amazing big person with this big life, and they had to minimize themselves, and then going to the other end of this, so to speak, they could only fit parts of themselves through this tiny, tiny little state of mind that they have. And so they ended up like 2 inches tall as a result. They got smaller, not because they're small. You didn't perform or didn't feel the way you wanted to feel, not because you can't, but because your state of mind would not allow it, because your state of mind was so constraining, it was so limiting, if you will, like limiting states of mind, limiting emotions, limiting thoughts, that it limited the individual that you could express yourself as, whether it's to yourself or to your audience or to the people you care about or to your boss or to the computer that you're working on and try to produce the algorithms that you're looking for. Like, you just ended up not performing very well because the state of mind only allowed a tiny, tiny little bit of performance, if any at all. Now, what that might have meant is that you needed to put in, let's say, 5 hours, which you could totally do, but you only put in 1. Right? It could be something as simple as that. Or it couldn't, maybe it's not time, but it's like your delivery, right? The quality of what, like you can really create, let's say 10 out of 10 quality. And instead here you got like 2 out of 10 instead. All about the state, because everything has to go through that state of mind. Different scenario. Or actually, you know what? Same scenario. Forget I said that. Same individual, right? And yet here now we have a state of mind that's huge. A state of mind that's wide. There's no bottleneck. It's a state of mind that actually doesn't just allow all your knowledge and experience and abilities and circumstances and job and money and friends and all that stuff through to the next point, but even amplifies it. I mean, is it possible that if you're in a really powerful state, if you are in a really intelligent state, if you're in a really productive state, if you're in a really effective state, a loving state, a grateful state, whatever, right, for the circumstance that's needed, that it could actually amplify? You could actually deliver more than what your current body and resources seems like it would provide, like in normal circumstances? You bet. And so if you've got it's extremely powerful state, way more powerful or allows more power than what like you might create day to day. And by the way, there's great examples of this. There's people that could only run so fast, but all of a sudden they show up at the Olympics and they've been visualizing it for years and they beat everybody and break the world record. Happens, does happen. Mindset. Not physical preparation. I mean, obviously the physical preparation needed to be there as well. These stories about, some a mother, picks up a car and moves it to get it off of their child, let's say. It's a state of mind that amplifies what they're capable of. I'm not saying they weren't capable of that. It's just that capability wasn't expressed at any point. Nobody would have expected they would have been capable of that. So it's like extraordinary capabilities or unexpected and unimaginable capabilities. So I'm not saying it's like somehow warps time and space here. People argue that, but I'm not arguing that at this point. So the point being, hey, they've got an amazing state, and so they go ahead and take action and do what they need to do in that state of mind, and then they are bigger across the other end. So here they're a 10 out of 10, and here they deliver, a 15 out of 10. Or they can, put in 5 hours here, instead they put in 10, right? It's all state of mind that made that happen. Now, I'm not saying go get better, don't go get better friends, money, job, knowledge, experience, body, etc. Yes, do those things too. That's a great platform that you can stand on top of, but what is standing on top of that is your state of mind. So more comes through you, you're more powerful, and you see this all the time with all sorts of different performers, leaders, coaches, programmers, lovers, people that work out. I mean, you see somebody who's like really muscular and they're in the gym and they're just cranking. You can tell their state of mind is totally focused on what they're doing, and their intensity level is way more than like just your average schlub that goes into the gym every once in a while and tries to pick up a weight. I see this from time to time in the gym. Like, some really husky guy comes in who's, there every other day easily or more, and there's a different focus, there's a different intensity. And then some skinny kid comes in who's never been in the gym before, and they're like, they're not just physically like weaker, mentally speaking, they haven't made those connections either. So, and we could go on and on about this. I won't for the sake of time, but I hope this makes sense. I mean, does it? Hit me up in the chat about this. I'm happy to answer questions or clarify, but this is like either your bottleneck, state of mind and emotion, or it's your amplifier. This is like a megaphone, if you will. So that's what I want. I want a megaphone, not a bottleneck in my life or in my coaching or in my leadership or in my relationships or my health. I want to amplify that life, get the most I can out of it, and give the most to it, and experience the most of it as well. This is a way to, now remember, this isn't just about producing and performing. This is about what you get to feel. You want to feel like a 2 out of 10 in your life, or do you want to feel a 15 out of 10, right? Like just what you get to feel is going to be different based upon your state of mind and the way you manage that as well. So I'll give you one more example here of a student of ours that at one point, when they were just getting started with our trainings, they were minimizing themselves via a state of mind. They had a bottleneck, if you will, and they seemed pretty gung-ho and very excited. And then they got started and they finished like their first week of training, and they called me and they said, "Hey, I quit." I mean, that was literally what they said. It was like, I'm quitting. I said, "Well, why are you quitting?" And they said, "Well, I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. There's too much to do. I can't do all this. I'll just do it someday." So now, very quickly, I explained to this student of ours that someday generally never comes, and that when we start convincing ourselves that we'll do this later, when we really could very well do it now, like later never comes. And I also mentioned that we're not promising to deliver him the same training that he just signed up for in the future, that he's got to take it now if he really wants a guarantee as well. So I said, "Yeah, but I'm really overwhelmed." And I said, "Well, what do you mean overwhelmed?" And he said, "Well, there's all this work that you're giving me and all these assignments, and I've got these clients I need to coach, and I just don't think I can handle it. I'm afraid that, if I coach these people, like, what if I screw it up? Like, I'm going to screw somebody's life up." I said, "Well, it sounds like you're just afraid of failure." And he said, "Yeah, I think that's really what it is." It really wasn't overwhelmed. I mean, he felt overwhelmed, but really that overwhelm was really pointing to a fear that he had, and he was just trying to overdo it to try to mitigate that fear because he was so worried about how he was going to perform, and and if he was going to fail, and he was so afraid of the failure that he started stacking all this work and overdoing what he really needed to do in order to get by in the training, right? I said, look, for you, the training is not to succeed and be the best that you could ever be. For you, the lesson in the training and what you're going to get from the training is actually failing and doing that in a powerful way, in a state of mind that allows you and like appreciates the value of failure and grows from it, not shrinks away from it and hiding in this protected little place. And we talked about like what kind of extraordinary life he could have if failure was actually a part of his life rather than something that he hid from. We talked about people that have extraordinary lives are not people that succeed all the time. Like we talked about Gandhi is, he had an extraordinary contribution in his life, and he, by his own explanation, wasn't anything special. He just made an extraordinary commitment in his life and then had the courage to live into that commitment. And he failed miserably a lot. I mean, ultimately, he failed to stay alive, like somebody killed him, right? But we still remember him to this day because his state of mind about that was not one such that he would shrink from failure. He had courage. And so we talked about this and how great leaders actually, like have courage even in the face of failure and overwhelm and all these things that he was dealing with at that point. And he said, you know what, I really need to take this training. I need to keep going. So what happened in that conversation, although there were a lot of like little maneuvers and stories and conversations and questions, the kind of thing a coach would do, the ultimate point of what happened there was he went from overwhelm and fear and quitting state of mind to courage. Didn't mean that he didn't have some fear and he wasn't maybe overwhelmed, but he actually created this new state called courage. And courage brought him to become momentarily, like literally within like 20 minutes of our conversation, someone who was more of themselves and had more to give to others. Not perfect, not doing everything great, not, crushing it with every session and getting every assignment done or even understanding the whole thing. But he could show up in a whole different way. Instead of a 2 out of 10, maybe an 8 out of 10. Because courage looked like this. It was an amplifier for who he was, not like overwhelm and fear being a limiter of who he was. All it was his state. He changed his state. In that moment, his life changed. And by the way, the domino effect of what he'll do as a result of just staying in training, not to mention what he'll learn and how he'll make a difference for people, completely different life. That domino effect started with just mitigating a limiting state of mind. So I hope this makes sense, and I think I actually got this written down. So let's actually practice this. Let's not just talk about it. I mean, we've been dealing with a lot of theory here. So we've been talking about amplification, right? Amplifying your life rather than limiting your life. Amplifying your relationships rather than limiting them. Amplifying your physicality, your energy, and your power and attractiveness rather than limiting it. Amplifying your career and your money and what you can create in your job or your business rather than limiting it. So a question I have for you is, what do you want to amplify? What do you want to amplify in your life? And by the way, it's only one or both of two things. It's either you want to amplify your performance, I want to perform at a different level, or you want to amplify your feelings. You want to feel something different or something better than what you're currently feeling. That's it. So now, there's a lot of areas of your life that you might want to make changes to, right? Like in performance, it might be, hey, I want to perform better with my work, or I want to perform differently in terms of finding or maintaining or creating or amplifying relationships, or health. I mean, those are kind of the three big areas that most people are focused on that really make a difference for them. But also, you might have amazing work and just want to feel differently about it, or a great relationship and you're taking it for granted right now, right? Or amazing health, but you still feel like a loser in that area, right? So whichever one it is, it could be both, and usually it is both. But just pick something. Pick something, something in your life that you want to amplify. Performance at work, or your feelings about your relationships, whatever that is. And what I mean by amplify is get out of this limiting place where things are less than what you deserve, less than what you are really willing to stand for, putting up with less. And less could mean feeling lousy, or less could mean just having less of what you really deserve and want. Less could mean less of you that shows up. There's a lot of different ways to look at that. But, like life has gotten, or relationships have gotten, or work has gotten, or money has gotten, it's like gotten small. A lot of people lately, I don't know if you're watching this live, but if you are, you know that lately a lot of people have shrunk their lives down very tiny because they are pointing at a circumstance called COVID, or called politics, or called danger in society, or something like that, especially if you're in the States. And so they've limited things. And by the way, I'm not totally against, sometimes it's good just to be safe, right? So don't be unsafe, right? I'm not at all saying that. But the point I'm making is that they've pointed the circumstances, and then they've created states of mind called fear, or hatred, or anger, or giving up, or, depression. And it's like, well, no wonder your relationships aren't great right now, or your work isn't working out. But people won't say that usually. People will say, well, my work's not working out because of COVID. My relationship's not working out because I'm at home right now and we have to deal with each other all day. Okay, seems a little odd to say that, but I've heard that. I've literally heard those kind of things during coaching sessions. So rather than getting into the excuse and the circumstances, let's actually look at what's really at the basis of those, what's really at the source of all of that. So just pick one of these, and I'm going to ask you this. What is going on that you want to change? And then what is it going to take for you to change it? Like, what do you actually need to do? Let's actually get into the doing here. Now, by the way, if it's just a feeling thing and you don't want to do anything different, that's cool. But I just want to start with the performance people. Like, if you have a doing thing that you need to change, like, just clarify, okay, what do I need to do differently? Okay, because usually doing and performance are, kind of kissing cousins. So get that answer. And then I'm going to ask you, for those that are in the doing side of things, what do you need to feel so that you'll do that? Not only do it, but do it at the level and the amount that you need to do it at. In other words, you'll not only do it with a level of quality that'll deliver, but a level of quantity that will get you where you want to go as well. Okay, so what's the quality and quantity of the doing that you need to hit? So just have that in your mind's eye. Now, the last question on this little pre-journey here is, what emotion or what mindset do you need to master, to take on, so that you'll do at that level? Do you need to master courage, or generosity, or love, or power, or focus? Like, what's the mindset? Just see if you can come up with a label for it to simplify. Now, those of you that are more in feeling land and you just want to change your feeling about something, or your feeling in your life, what's the feeling? Because at the end of the day, if you're wanting to do something, feelings will lead to that, right? And if you're not worried about the doing side, well, then all you want are to amplify those feelings to another level. Rather than having a limiting feeling like fear or depression, have an unlimited feeling, or an amplified feeling, or a feeling that'll empower you, like love, generosity, excitement, passion, one of these happy ones, right? The positive states of mind, the states of mind that create power. So at this point, you should know what your state of mind is that's really required for you to produce the performance level that you want, or just the feelings that you're after. So now let's actually use that state. Let's get into that state. So I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to ask you to answer these questions in your own mind. You can answer them out loud if you want. Don't worry about writing them down right now. This is more about actually experiencing and thinking about the answers. If you can, try and visualize the answer. Some people are very visual. In fact, most people are visual. So if you can see the answer in your mind's eye, you will take on the feeling a lot of times more deeply because you get a vision of it, and then that will tend to impact how you're feeling about it. Not everybody needs to do that, but it's great if you can and if it helps for you. So either visualize the answer or think about the answer deeply, okay? And really try to feel the answer too. So whatever that state of mind is, think about that. What is something in your life that actually already makes you feel that way? And if there's nothing in your life that has you feel that way right now, what could? Like if you chose to feel that way about something in your life or about something in life in general, like what would it be? Just think about and focus on whatever that is right now. That's it. See that in your mind's eye, or just clarify the answer for yourself. What about that, whatever it is, makes you feel that way? Or what about that could make you feel that way if you felt like it, if you really wanted to feel that way? So in other words, there's this thing that you've identified that makes you feel this emotion or this state of mind that's required for you to perform or feel the way you'd like to feel. What about that thing makes you feel that? Like focus in on that for a second and give yourself the gift of actually kind of getting a handle on, or at least being clear about, what is that? What is that gives you that feeling? What about that gives you that feeling? Think about it for a second. Give yourself the gift of discovering where that comes from, at least in terms of your focus. And how does that make you feel? Now, at this point, if you've answered those questions, you really thought about the answers, you should be getting at least a little bit of that feeling right now. Okay? Now, with that feeling, you can go farther. So I'm going to ask you to do this. If you can, close your eyes for this part of the process, or just, try to visualize without going off the road if you're like driving when we're going through this. Chances are we're not, unless you're using your phone in the car. But the point is, as you visualize these next steps, you will stack and amplify these feelings even more. So I'm going to ask you to do at this point is think about a time in your past when you also felt that feeling. Think about, what was the time in your past you really felt that powerful, you felt that grateful, you felt that loving, or you felt that productive, you felt that focused, or you felt that intelligent. Whatever the feeling is, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Just think about a time in your past when you felt that. And what I'm going to ask you to do is put yourself back in that memory like it's happening now. We're going to manage those memories a little bit. So actually imagine you're stepping into your body in the past, seeing what you saw at the time, hearing what you heard at the time, like whatever you were doing, imagine you doing those, like stepping into your body and really experiencing it right now again. Right now again, just like it was then. See what you saw, hear what you heard, what were the feelings that you were feeling? That's it. And just play that experience like it was a movie that you're literally living at this point. Really great. Now think about another time in your past that you might have felt that way. What was the time where you felt that the most intensely? Think about that time, the one that it was the most amplified, so to speak. See what you saw at that time. Hear what you heard at that time. Feel those same feelings. And by the way, if you use your body, even if you're like sitting down, like what kind of look did you have on your face? How were you breathing at that time? How are you standing? The way you move and stand and the look that you'll have on your face will change actually how you're feeling as you go through this part of the process. So actually tell your body how it actually felt. Does that make sense? So see what you saw at the time, hear what you heard at the time, feel the feelings, move your body that way, put that look on your face, breathe the way you were breathing at the time. And by the way, you can even amplify this even more by jacking up the intensity of those, the ways that you're using your body. Experience that fully again. Give yourself the gift. See, all the feelings that you need to perform, all the feelings that you want in your present, you've probably already had them in your past at some point, at some level. Chances are. And so if you just go back to those feelings, you can bring them up today and it'll create the same performance in a way. Maybe not exactly the same way it was then, but sometimes even better, depending on how you manage and manifest those memories. But I don't want to stay in the past. Let's go ahead and move into the future, because in the future, we can use our creative faculty. We can actually manifest and create something that hasn't even happened yet. Take it to another level, talking about amplification, right? So same mindset, same emotion, same feeling. Imagine a time in your future, if you really knew that the future was going to be amazing, it was going to be perfect, it was going to be all great. Imagine a time in your future when you'll feel that. Just make it up, right? Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. It makes no difference. You get to experience it right now, right? So imagine a time in your future that you'll feel that power, you'll feel that love, or you'll feel that ecstasy, or you'll feel that focus, or you'll feel that intelligence. Whatever the emotion is that you need for performance or feelings, just make that up in your head. What would be the perfect scenario that would make you feel that most deeply, the most intensely, at the highest level possible? And then jump into that memory, just like you did in the memories from the past. These are memories in your future, right? So imagine you're looking back on this future past, so to speak. So but just jump into your future, see what you'll see at that time, hear what you'll hear at that time. What are the same feelings that you would feel at that time? What kind of look would you have on your face? How would you stand? How would you move? And actually play that like a movie. Play that out like a movie, like you're seeing that scene happen in front of you, living through that experience moment by moment. And give yourself the full gift of experiencing that fully. Imagine how that'll make you feel. Imagine who you'll become. Imagine what you would do as a result of that experience. Feel it fully. Now imagine another time in your future where you'll feel that even more, or at least the same amount. See what you'll see at the time. Again, close your eyes if you can. Visualize this. Hear what you heard at the time, or what you'll hear. Will you say anything? Are there words that you're going to use? Is there any self-talk? What would you say to yourself if you're in that moment? And then feel the feelings again. How would you breathe? What look would you have on your face? How would that make you feel? Feel that now. Play it like a movie. Now we're going to go faster because we're going to stack these. And as we stack them faster, you're just going to get flashes of these feelings and experiences, which is totally fine because your subconscious mind will know what to do as it stacks this emotion. So I want you to think of another time in your future when you'll feel that type of emotion. See what you'll see at the time, hear what you'll hear at the time, feel the feelings, experience it. Now think of another time. Just walk past that. What would be an even better moment that will feel even more intensely with whatever that feeling is, whatever that mindset is that you need, that you know is going to make a difference to amplify your life. See what you'll see then. Hear what you'll hear then. How will that make you feel? Now see another time like that, and another, maybe in a different scenario with different people, at a different time. Whatever it is, just imagine different scenarios. See one again and again and again. See it faster and faster, one after another. Like they're almost like there are these pictures that are zooming towards you, and then you just step into those moments. And then you see another one zooming towards you, and you step into that next moment. Flashes of circumstances, feelings, experiences. One after another, faster, 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 and more intense. Keep feeling it, keep seeing it, keep hearing it, again and again and again. All right, you can stop. Really great. Great work. I hope you actually did this part of the process. And if you didn't, you can always go back in the video, assuming this is not taken down, to actually do it fully. But at this point, you should really be feeling that experience. You should really be feeling whatever that state of mind or that mindset or that thought process or that emotion was that you selected. And by the way, if you're not feeling exactly that, you can hone this, because this is a little bit more of a blunt instrument that we demonstrated today, but chances are you feel better than before. So the point of this is that With that feeling, what's possible for you? What could you do? How could you perform differently? How would you show up in your life differently if that's the way you felt? What are the things that maybe you know you needed to do or you needed to do at another level, but you haven't yet because that state of mind was not available to you? It wasn't on tap. Well, guess what? We just spent, if you did this, 10 minutes, maybe 12 at the most. And in that 10 to 12 minutes, you actually got into that state. You accessed that state. So that state of mind hasn't been based upon circumstances changing or, the virus going away or, protests stopping or your business making more money all of a sudden, although some people maybe made more money in those 12 minutes, right? But chances are not. Your circumstances haven't changed, but your feelings have. And therefore, what you can do and what's possible for you changes as well. So that's it. And with that, you can build a different action set. With that, you can build a different skill set. With that, you can build different friends, different circumstances, different money situation, whatever it is. It's a mindset accessing process first, and then the rest will follow. Now, by the way, nothing wrong with knowing what to do and having a great external strategy. I mean, that's part of strategy coaching. You all know that in Strategy Immersion Training. But what's usually missing for somebody is them just doing it because they're not in state, or doing it with a level of quality that would actually push them over the top for actually achieving what's really possible for them. That's what's missing. So I hope this makes sense, and I hope this really made a difference for you in terms of just how you're feeling. And so in this state of mind, my coaching for you is really simple. First of all, imagine what are you needing to do or do differently that this state of mind makes possible. Write that down. Don't walk away from this process just forgetting about it because it's like, oh yeah, that was interesting, and then that's the end of it, right? And then here, for coaches, leaders, teachers, thought leaders, especially if you're in strategy immersion training, what will that state of mind make possible for your clients? Who's a client that you know is limited because they don't have access to that or don't have access to a state of mind that they need to access? Think about what's going on for them and who they are. Write that down also and strategize about how are you going to use this type of process or something else to help them create and amplify something in their life because they can then access that state of mind in an area where they didn't access it or they don't currently access it. What's your strategy for actually getting them to change their state such that they could truly change not just how they feel, but ultimately their performance in their life? What are you going to do about it? So write that down. That said, week 2 is coming up very fast, faster than many of you might actually imagine. So finish those assignments from week 1, finish your coaching sessions, use this stuff, and dive into the pool and use it. Get into the state of mind that allows you to use it, and then go for it. Because, if you just hold back and go into a state of fear or overwhelm, like we talked about earlier, or depression, or by the way, it doesn't mean that we don't get in reaction every once in a while, and maybe something happens and we react with a feeling. But as soon as you realize you're like hooked by the circumstance, do this exercise or do something to change the way that you are actually associating with what's happening in your life, so that your state of mind is powerful or empowered, and it'll amplify how you can deal with that, and then also go make a difference for others as well. Because you can't make a difference for others, help them change their life and their state of mind if your state of mind is limiting you, not only in your ability to show up for them at all, but actually in your ability to perform well once you actually get on the stage in that environment, in that coaching session, whatever it is. So look forward to working with you in week 2. And if you have any questions about this, feel free to let me know. Look forward to it. Take care.